Hello, my name is Dan Smith and I'm the Head of Marketing and Investor Relations for CARLTON Bonds and Growth Capital Ventures. I'm joined here today by Simon Lenney, who's the Chairman of CARLTON Bonds, to look at one specific topic, the Northeast housing sector as an opportunity for property investors today. Simon, we're both clearly from the Northeast and big fans of the region, including with property, but it would be probably fair to say that traditionally, and if we were generalising, most investors into property have looked towards the South.
Yeah, it's always been the hot spot to head to, I think, Dan, hasn't it? I think if you look at the general market at the moment, we're looking at the busiest property market for decades, and it's been driven by, a number of factors. If you think the stamp duty saving incentive scheme, that holiday ends at the end of this month, and according to stats, I think there are something like 700,000 sales going through at the minute.
Wow.
And the previous high was about 428,000 back in May 17. But it's also fair to say that many of those sales won't complete in time. And even with that, it's not expected to really hurt the housing market in the UK, because there's a huge amount of pent-up demand after years of Brexit uncertainty. We've got this post-lockdown yearning for greenery and space. The mortgage guarantee scheme that was introduced in April 21, that runs until December 22. And that's brought relatively high LTVs back into the marketplace from the high street mortgage providers, as well as obviously being combined with low interest rates. So you put all that together, and then you look at the much improved infrastructure that's starting to spread out of London and start to actually come out into the into the major conurbations like the Northwest and the Midlands and the Northeast. Then it's not surprising the market is where it is. I think the impact that's going to have on the Northeast specifically, going back to your question, really is the fact that there is still a huge amount of pent-up demand in the Northeast, and there is still a lack of stock. And you could generalize that across other regions as well. But in an area where, this post-lockdown world is going to have a massive difference. We've got a lot of people now are getting used to a different work-life balance, and they're working from home, and the need to live close to rapid transport routes probably isn't as great as it was. So you look at the Northeast in general, there's a lot of open space there, and there's a lot of easy commutes for people. And this increased appetite for this space and the greenery, I guess, is also driven by affordability as well. So you've got a relatively low house price average in the Northeast, but you've still got a good household income ratio as well. So that is willing, and that should actually drive higher prices over the next 5 years as market demand is satisfied, but actually people still have the capacity to pay more because their mortgage provider will give them a mortgage to satisfy what they need within their own means and income level. So
definitely,
I think the Northeast has a lot to offer for an investor, but also for people who are actually coming into the region as well.
Definitely, and I think two of the points you touched on there, that the kind of pent-up demand and the increased infrastructure. If we just look at the pent-up demand first, as a result of clearly COVID, it isn't just in the Northeast, which is one thing we kind of have to get out there. But when we look at the stats, I mean, Savills have a great report where they recently announced that house price growth in the North, depending on which area you look, is actually set to hit about 30% over the next 5 years. It's still increasing or set to increase in London. We're talking just double-digit growth, and I say just in kind of inverted commas because it's still strong growth. Yeah. But 30% compared to 11-12% is a huge difference.
Yes, yeah, there is, and I think a lot of people would argue actually, the Northeast is due a bit of catch-up here. For those already in the housing market. It has still been very difficult to actually get on that housing ladder. The younger you are, the harder it is. I have a daughter who has been very fortunate to get on the housing ladder, but it took a lot longer than it certainly did when I was first buying a property. But I also think that the impact of the Northeast, or on the Northeast, of certain levels of inward investment, and also the improved infrastructure and transport links, is going to have a major impact to help service this increase. So, we are from the Northeast, you're absolutely right. So, we've started seeing regular London connected flights out of Teesside, which is fantastic. And Teesside now is as an airport is absolutely back on the map, and it is where it should be, well deservedly so. But also, I think it was just yesterday that there was big news about a direct London route out of Middlesbrough, down a rail route out of Middlesbrough, which has been, it should have been there years ago, let's be honest. But now, we'll have Newcastle, Darlington, and Middlesbrough, and Sunderland all serviced directly into major stations in and around London. So the connectivity plays a huge part in that. You've just got to look at the confidence that the government has in sending its major treasury function. I think it's something like 25% of its staff out and rehousing it up in Darlington, and that's 400 treasury staff, 350 from other departments. Sorry, which is fantastic. And that's over the next 5 years. Now, you park that into Darlington, and the multiplier effect of, well, okay, that's just 750 people, but what else is that going to bring? And I know it's not a simple supply chain as you would have, say, around Nissan or whatever, but at the same time, it's a huge boost for the area. But there's going to be a lot of houses required, and we have the ability, if the government are going to start relaxing the planning regulations, we have the ability to provide that, because we have the space, we have the greenery, and the area itself, which has always, in my mind, been a very well kept secret. I've worked with a lot of people who've moved to the Northeast from outside the region, and you try and get their family to move out of it when it's time to move on again. It's very, very difficult, but it's, anecdotally, that's what this area does. And it's a hugely attractive proposition for people. So you've got treasury function out of Darlington. Looking across the whole region itself, you've got a brand new, what they call a giga plant being, comes out the ground in about 6 months' time, 235 acres on an old power station site in South Northumberland, to build car batteries, which will generally service Nissan, I would think, in Sunderland, but 3,000 jobs. And already the local agents, the residential agents, are starting to talk about the demand and impact this is going to have on house prices in and around that area. So it's an attractive proposition, and we have a lot to offer in this area as well.
Me too, and I feel that obviously you mentioned kind of anecdotal kind of insights, but it is the information we have. It does back all of this up. I mean, we obviously work closely with Homes by Carlton to deliver developments throughout the region, and the demand there is just, for want of a better phrase, insane. I mean, we're seeing a lot of off-plan reservations, a huge demand for more and more quality homes in the region, and those are the right homes in the right locations to meet the demands of the home buyer today. As you were saying earlier, people are moving outside of major cities. They aren't really looking, at least not as much, for apartments. They're looking for those 2, 3, 4, 5-bedroom homes where they can actually work comfortably from home, have a garden, and still be in a great location where they can live and work comfortably. Yeah,
I agree. I think there's a level of disposable income that obviously people have realised what they have available, because they haven't had anything to do with it for the last 12 months. And the situation that we have on travelling abroad is obviously very difficult. So what are people looking at? They've stared at the same four walls for
Yeah.
a long period of time, but actually then thought, our balance has changed as well as maybe as working parents, or and for not having that commute, but having a reliable transport system or a road network that doesn't get clogged up, for 4 hours every morning. Okay, we all have a rush hour, or it might be a rush 2 hours these days, but you can still commute across the Northeast, very, very easily, from one place to the other. So I think the need for people to actually have a change is one thing, but I think the fact that if something is going to drive an increase, there is still a good level of earning capacity that the Northeast has. Household income ratios are still pretty high. It's the house prices that aren't, in comparison to other parts of the country. And the further south you go, the more expensive it gets. So for me, this is just a catch up, and it should be sustainable as well. As long as people can continue to pay their mortgages and there's not a flood of houses come on the market, we saw what happened in the States years ago, then that's where it all went wrong. But actually, this is a controlled level, and as a result of the COVID restrictions lifting and the impact that has economically on the UK. So we're expecting to see a rise in unemployment towards the back end of this year, early next. Then that level of sustainability should be enough to maintain that level of support and growth as well.
Completely. And I think there's a great point that again comes back to the transport routes and just what you were talking about, kind of the income ratios that London and the bigger cities will no doubt always attract talent because of what it is. They are great cities that are appealing and generally come with a premium salary. But if anything, over the past 12 to 18 months, it's become abundantly clear that you can live in the Northeast and actually travel and in theory, commute to places like London in a relatively short period of time. I mean, I have friends and family who live in zone 2, 3, 4 and may commute for 90 minutes, 2 hours each day. I can quite literally leave my house and get the train to central London in about 2 hours 30 door to door, which isn't a great deal different to actually living in central London, but I get all the benefits of being here in the Northeast.
Yeah, indeed. And you've got a house valued at probably half of what you would, the equivalent of what you would have to have if you lived, within a 10, 20 mile commutable zone. And I think that's the difference. So alongside the changes to people's work-life balance and the ability to do what we're actually doing now, because let's be honest, normally we would sit in front of each other and we'd have a camera on each other. So, but we're still doing it, and we're still doing it successfully, as other businesses have done it. Again, anecdotally, but from other business owners that I talk to, they're looking at the fact that actually they don't need to travel as far anymore. They don't need to have a worldwide travel budget, when actually they can do the same amount of sales and growth under different means. And so this is going to, this is not just going to be a short-term change to how things work. And I know some of the bigger corporates are saying, actually, we want our staff down in Canary Wharf, or we want them back in the office. And I think that's going to take a long time, because people are actually used to it on the basis that they have proved we are as productive as we would have been had we sat in the office. In fact, you know what? I can start early. I might finish a little bit earlier, but I can start early because I don't have to get in the car, get on the train, or et cetera, and I can start work for you straight away. So, but to do that, I probably need to change the way I live and where I live, and that then has an impact. So, I think this is a very exciting time for the housing market, and a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, okay, we've got to be very careful, and I totally agree with that. We don't want to see it overheated, but if you balance it with the fact that we can't build houses fast enough, and we're not building houses fast enough, and there is a level of construction inflation which we are now seeing as a result of COVID and lack of supplies and lack of the subcontractor market is very difficult for the construction industry. I think that will actually help control the rapid inflation that people are expecting, and maybe an overheated market. I just think it will have to be a sensible but actually a slow growth. But from an investment perspective, surely that has to be a really good proposition. You don't want it blown out the market and capital being put at risk. You want something that's going to be sustainable and you can plan ahead for the next 4 or 5 years. So yes, come to the Northeast. That's what I would say.
I mean, that itself is a great point, Simon. One of the when I've been speaking to investors lately, those who have invested heavily in London or the South and are considering Northeast investments, it's one of the points that we try and discuss is that it doesn't need to be a Northeast or the South. You can, like most other investment aspects, you would have a balanced, diversified portfolio. You wouldn't purely invest in a single asset in a single location. And I guess that's the same with property. There's no need to completely sell up and move outside of London or the Southeast. It's just I guess it's becoming clearer and more accessible to actually invest into the great opportunities that are here in the Northeast.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think when people think out of London and they probably get to maybe Birmingham or they get to the Northwest, because those Manchester and Birmingham are key cities. They forget about Leeds and they forget about the Northeast and Teesside and Newcastle. But there is a huge opportunity if you want to rebalance your portfolio and take advantage of something. And it's investor common sense, and any experienced investor will actually look at that and think, well, okay, if the forecast growth is double digit in or just scraping through double digit in London, then you should stay there. And I think everybody should. London is a very, very strong marketplace and will continue to be so. We just need to see what we're like when it recovers. We're not talking about the hospitality sector here. We're looking at demand for houses, and there is lack of stock everywhere across the UK. But the fact is that this is, as I've said before, that this is catch up for the Northeast and for the Northwest and for the Yorkshire regions as well. We are just kind of rebalancing. But the fact is, the opportunities that we have here in the Northeast, this is a beautiful part of the country. So if you look at, don't look at the economics as well, but look at the aesthetics. And, once people get here, they're very settled. And it's a beautiful area that actually can offer a much broader standard of living. I wouldn't say better, because that's down to the individual, but you can get a much broader standard of living across the Northeast and great value for money.
Simon, that's fantastic. It's great to speak about the Northeast in general, as always, but it's been useful today to actually just delve into the housing sector in the region a little bit more, because it is, as you're saying, it is playing catch up. And although I feel that more and more people are becoming aware of just how I guess investable of a region the Northeast is with property and beyond, there's still a huge opportunity for investors with the right risk appetite and right focus to add housing in the Northeast to their portfolio.
Yeah, indeed. And the government knows it needs to send something like 22,000 civil servants out of central London and into the provinces over the next 5 years. So, that is going to help support regional government functions, not necessarily all in the Northeast, but bring them on. It would be lovely to have. But as that happens, that's then going to help other regions in very similar situations. So you wouldn't look at the Northeast individually and think, oh my Lord, why is that going at 30%? And other areas are only scraping through at 10 or 15% growth. I think this will just level off right across the North in general. So, bring it to the Northeast. Let's, look at the trust that the government has and other business leaders have as well. So there's a lot going on for us. And, as a passionate Northeastern, as you are as well, then, we are here to support those businesses, and we want to build some homes as well, don't we? So,
indeed.
Yeah.
Simon, that's perfect. Thank you so much for your time and your insights. I would say anything additional to add, but I'm going to take a guess that it's basically move to the northeast and invest here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, give it a try. Give it a try. Absolutely.
Simon, that's fantastic. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Dan.